Okay, we can start. We can start straight away. Interesting fact. One of my friends sent me a tweet today from a Turkish guy. I don't really know this guy.
Yep.
But it happens that he's a well-known scout in Turkey.
Okay.
I see his bio. He's a former chief scout of Balıkesirspor. I don't even I know Turkish football, but I don't even know this team.
Yep.
And he quoted my tweet about Tel, and he slandered me. And he's saying that Mathys Tel is the new Choupo-Moting. Well, okay. Just an interesting story I got today. The new Choupo-Moting. Wow, we will see.
Well, Bayern is trying to obviously get Tel and are trying to spend a lot of money on him. So, I mean, no offense to Choupo-Moting, who obviously is a great sub, but Bayern, of course, are hoping that Tel will be a lot more than that, and are hoping that he's going to become, according to the journalists and according to the sources and everything, they're hoping that he becomes the next big French superstar.
Yeah, that's also my opinion. Like I said in one of my tweets, a few years ago, I was watching a very talented kid called Kylian Mbappe. It's not that I compare Kylian Mbappe to Tel, but you know, there are these kinds of talents that you watch them and you just say to yourself, there is no way that he won't become world class. It's like you see the quality from far. So if he won't have any issues, attitude issues, he will be a star. I'm quite sure of it. And about this guy slandering me for hyping Mathys Tel, well, Bayern scouts probably know better than me and better than him what's the quality of Mathys Tel. I don't think that Bayern is a team that throws money like this. Most of the times they spend their money wisely. So if they are ready to spend this kind of money on Tel, they must love him.
Absolutely, I agree with you. It seems like we're trying to spend record money for a player of his age, which really raises the question because the club was not willing to spend a lot of money for the likes of Camavinga, or the likes of Tchouaméni, and of course they're different profiles. They're not attackers, they're not forwards, but it's very telling that the club is willing to spend what the reports are up to 30 million euros for someone that I think has had 7 games in League One. So that's a lot of money for such a young kid. That I'm pretty sure 90% of the Bayern fan base didn't know until the rumours started linking us to him.
Yeah, but you know, in today's world, it's kind of a race. You need to be fast or to be rich. I like saying that be quick or be rich. Manchester City maybe they had him in plans, but they said, okay, we will wait 2-3 years and we will buy him for 100 million. Screw it. And Bayern want to be faster, you know, and I understand them because I strongly believe that Mathys Tel will cost much more in a few years. Of course, it's a risk. He's young. You never know with injuries and stuff, but it's the risk I would personally take. There are some players in the world like Camavinga. I remember 16-year-old Camavinga, and I would pay a lot of money for this kid. There is a risk, but in my country, in Poland, we say if you don't risk, you don't drink the champagne. So yeah.
That's a great saying. Alright, just to kind of run through his profile, as I said, a lot of people just haven't seen him, so they are not very familiar with him. If you had to compare him to a player, who would like a previous player that might be more well known, who would you compare him to?
On my website, I compared him to Thierry Henry.
Yeah.
I think it's a good comparison. Like he's very fast, strong, loves to attack from the left wing, cut inside and score just like Titi used to do many times in England and Spain.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be my comparison. Personally, I love players like this. He's not a typical 9. He's not the new Lewandowski for sure. He's I would say more complete, but I love Lewandowski, so maybe I'm not gonna say that. But he's different. He's different. He's not as good as a finisher. And maybe he will never be as good as a finisher as Levy.
Yep.
But he has many qualities Levy doesn't really have.
Yep. One thing I've noticed about him, and granted, as I said, I haven't watched him personally. I've only watched highlights of him. But one thing I've noticed about him myself is that he has what I consider long feet, which it's a moot point to make. But he seems to have long legs, where he seems to get into stride very quickly. And typically, what I found with players that have long legs, is that they're great at running. But when it comes to close control, they typically don't excel at. Does he have that problem, or is he good in tight spaces?
Well, maybe he's not Juan Roman Riquelme, but I think he's very good technically. Now we are witnessing since for many years tall players, but really good on the ball, really good in tight spaces. It's not like 20 years ago that every player who was 190 he was a deadwood technically.
Yep.
It's not really the case, and it's not the case of Mathys Tel. Like maybe he's not a magician, but really I wouldn't say it's a weakness or something. He's really good technically, and yeah.
Okay.
Just like Titi Henry, he was also a great technician.
Yep. Well, I guess this question is quite important. If Bayern is willing to spend that much money on him, does he even have a shot at playing at Bayern over, say, staying? For his development, would it not be better to stay at Rennes, or do you think that if he goes to Bayern, that he has an opportunity to actually make it into the squad and play regularly?
Well, the problem, I was thinking about it. The main problem is that if he will stay at Rennes, won't just they say, okay, we already sold him, we don't really need to develop him, and they have really good players, like much older players, but of his quality. So I would be afraid to leave him at Rennes. He wasn't getting many chances last season. So no, I'm gonna say it's better if he goes to Bayern, and I'm sure that Nagelsmann will be able to manage him in the right way.
Okay. A question from me, just a personal question, I guess, from me about him is that to me he almost seems like the modern striker. He kind of, not so much Thierry Henry, but he kind of reminds me of someone like Gakpo, who would drift wide left. Now, granted, again, I've not seen him in games. I've only seen highlights. Would he be an option to play out wide as well as, say, like a wide forward?
I would say that at the beginning of his career at Bayern, it would be a nice idea.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, he would become even more complete. Well, I see him as a 9 in the future, but playing him as an inside forward on the left, yeah, why not? Against some weaker Bundesliga teams, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like Gakpo, yeah. I love this guy. I love this guy. One of my biggest scouting misses.
Okay.
I remember watching him many times, and I had a guy who lived in Eindhoven, and we were talking about talents of PSV. He was watching every PSV team since under 9 to under 21, and we never mentioned Hakpo. But this guy, his work ethic, ambition is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, this is off topic, but I really wanted Gakpo at Bayern. To me, he would have been the dream signing for the summer, and then we ended up doing a lot of other things, and now we're trying to get Mathys Tel. So he almost seemed like the unknown to me, the Mathys Tel. Of course, to a lot of other people too. Another question, then, I guess. Nagelsmann reportedly wants to switch to a 3-5-2 next season, with Gnabry or Mane likely both to feature up front as a two-striker system. Maybe this is a bit more of a complicated question, but who would Mathys Tel ideally work best next to? Would it be a Gnabry or a Mane? Like, which player would complement his assets and his strengths the most?
Oh, that's a hard question. Mm-hmm. I would say probably Mane because he's simply a better player, and he used to play with in many systems, many very fluid systems. So I think I think Tel would suit with Mane better.
Okay. Okay.
And are you going to buy a number 9, a typical number 9, or you won't really have any this season?
Well, but the rumours are that Bayern are looking at Mathys Tel as the number 9. They're willing to give him the number 9 shirt, so that next season he can slowly develop into the number 9 player, and then in 2 years' time will be the guaranteed starting number 9. So that's why there's a lot of expectations on him, and I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for someone that has had so little games in the first league for Rennes.
Mm-hmm. But I really like the idea with playing with two strikers. Like Mathys is quite mobile, you know. He's not a goal poacher.
Yeah.
So I think that this system would fit him very, very well, you know. Like it would be a huge problem for defenses to cope with Mane and Mathys Tel, you know, exchanging positions, going out wide. I really like the idea.
Okay. Well, here's another question, and I know you kind of talk about this a little bit on your blog, which I will have linked in the description down below so that people can check it out and read it for themselves. But in terms of potential, where do you think he ranks? How big do you think his ceiling is? How high do you think his ceiling is?
He can become world class without any doubt. Well, you know, but potential is not something you can really count or touch. Potential is just a feeling of a guy who gives this potential.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, he's sailing world class. Like I gave him 10 out of 10. But I already saw guys with maybe similar potential who were ending up in third division.
Yeah.
Because potential is just one of the aspects that footballer needs to become world class. And in nowadays football, the expectations, the pace of the game is so incredibly high that only the guys with elite potential and elite mentality will make it, you know.
Yep, I agree with you on that one, absolutely.
And I don't know Mathys Tel, you know, so I can only judge his potential on the field, and on the field, this guy has a world class potential.
Okay.
And I have a feeling that Bayern wouldn't spend this kind of money without sending scouts to talk with him, with his family, to see, you know, what kind of a guy he is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, no, I agree with you absolutely. As I said, we don't Bayern doesn't typically spend a lot of money in general. This summer, of course, being a lot different, but for us to spend that kind of money for a 17-year-old kid is quite shocking. But our recent purchases from our recent French national team player purchases have gone quite well. I guess the thing that a lot of Bayern fans have in the back of their mind is when we got Tanguy Nianzou. He was rated as one of the greatest defensive talents or defensive midfield talents, I guess, in France. And while I think that he is one of our better centre-backs, a lot of Bayern fans wouldn't share that sentiment. So a lot of Bayern fans, I guess, are worried that Tel could be another signing where we didn't spend money for Nianzou, but that Tel could be a signing where we spend 30 million euros for a player that then ultimately doesn't live up to that hype, doesn't live up to the potential, doesn't live up to his strengths and his weaknesses, and just doesn't improve.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But Nianzou, do not write him off. It's far too early, and I think that he will still show some really good things at Bayern. Maybe a loan would be a good idea for him. Not sure, but yeah, Mathys Tel. I would say he's a slightly bigger talent than Nianzou. Nianzou came for free. He was signed for free from PSG. So Mathys Tel, they spent 30 millions, and I don't think I saw people saying that it was a panic buy. Like Bayern said, okay, we need someone good, talented, young. Wow, they took Tel. I think that they were observing him for a long time, and they knew him. They knew his family. So Nianzou was an opportunity. Tel is a transfer, you know.
Yep. I mean, as I said, I'm probably the biggest Nianzou fan in the world, but it just
no, you're second.
But it just seems like majority of the Bayern fan base, while they do see potential in him, they do think that his weaknesses are the things that are holding him back. He is just too aggressive and sometimes too reckless. So speaking of weaknesses,
just a concentration, really.
Yeah.
Just concentration is the main issue. Like, I'm gonna say the same thing about Upamecano.
And
nobody in the world will tell me that Upamecano is a bad player. He's not a bad player. He has everything to be a good player, but he just can't keep the concentration. Like when you are at Bayern, when you are a defender of Bayern, you really need like 3-4 situations to be concentrated, you know, and it's kind of hard. Like, I'm a fan of Atletico Madrid. Their defenders need to be put under electricity the whole game, you know.
Yep.
So yeah, but I still like Upamecano. I still like him. I know that this season was horrible for him, but well, we'll see.
Absolutely. I mean, you could make the argument that De Ligt is someone as well that lacks a little bit of concentration here and there. So that's going to be quite interesting next season. With the rumours being that Nagelsmann is going to play a 3-5-2. So having two centre backs, whether that's Upamecano, whether that's De Ligt, or whether that's Nianzou, having two centre backs that sometimes lack in concentration is going to be quite an interesting. It's going to be quite an interesting scenario. But back to Tel, since we talked about a little bit about Nianzou's weaknesses, what are Tel's weaknesses? What does he need to improve on? What does he need to work on?
I'm gonna say finishing, but it's not that he's a bad finisher. Sometimes he just tries a little bit too hard, you know. He shoots from the positions that maybe another option would be better. But I cannot criticize a striker for shooting. Like,
yeah,
they need to shoot, but just a little bit more composure, and yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I very much agree with your point that you really can't criticize a striker for trying to shoot. That is ultimately their job, and I think it's a good sign that he's confident in his shooting, even if his shooting isn't as great as he thinks it is. I guess is a good way of putting it.
Yeah, but with a little bit of work, he'll be great. He'll be great in this. Like I come from a country when I come from Poland, and in my country, in Poland, they say to wingers not to dribble. So and to strikers do not shoot, pass the ball, and that's why we are shit in football. You just can't limit, especially young players. They have to dribble, they have to shoot, they have to enjoy football, and that's just I'm at war with Polish football this in recent weeks, so just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
And another thing about Tel, I forgot to say, is that when I watched him for the first time, he was playing as a midfielder, as a central midfielder.
Really?
I thought that he was like a box to box, And I said, what the hell? And he was the best on the pitch. Like, he was dribbling everybody, running. But it was quite shocking. He was maybe 15 then, 14, 15. So they were throwing him in all positions because he was so good that he was delivering on every position. So wing, midfield, attack. And that shows that in such an elite academy like Rennes, it means something,
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that is actually very surprising. Would you say that his passing range is very good then if he played in midfield? I mean, surely he must have been great at passing as well. Which in a two-striker formation.
Well, I won't say that he's very creative. He was playing more like a box to box, like he was taking the ball in the middle of the pitch and he was running towards the goal.
Yeah.
He was roaming the whole pitch. His playmaking skills are not very, very good, but he doesn't really need them.
Okay. Well, I guess the last few things that I want to do is comparison. Just in terms of talent. I know talent is difficult because sometimes you have talent but you don't realize it, so on and so forth. But just in terms of talent, I believe it was recently, I can't remember who it was, but someone mentioned that he is the biggest talent in France as a striker since Benzema. Now I think that's I think that's extremely high praise, and I don't know. I did watch Benzema when he was younger. I haven't seen Tel when he's young. Would that be a fair comparison to make at all, or is that too high of a comparison?
Well, to say since Benzema, maybe yeah, but it doesn't mean that he's better or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, who did they have as strikers France since Benzema? Griezmann. And he wasn't even a product of French system.
Yep.
So yeah, why not? We can say this. Well, I know that many people are outraged. I love to compare. I love to compare players. I love it.
Oh, I do too. I do too.
But like I said, in terms of talent wise, maybe one step lower than Mbappe, but one step higher than Paul Vanner.
One step?
I love Vanner.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. One step higher than Paul Vanner and one step lower than Mbappe. A question from me then, I guess, is where would you rank Vidovic if you've watched him?
Absolutely love him as a player. But will he make it? Will he make it at Bayern? That's an interesting question. I would say when I gave this my rating potential for Mathys Tel, I gave him 10 out of 10.
Yep.
For Vidovic, I would give 9.
Okay. So on roughly the same level as Vanna.
Well, I gave Vanna 10 out of 10, but a lighter version of 10 of 10.
All
10
right.
out of 10.
All right. Okay.
And you still have Ibrahimovic.
Yep.
Also a really good player. You signed a Danish wonderkid, and I saw just glimpses of him, but damn, he's so good. Jonathan Asp, I think it's his name.
I think he's 14, 15. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he's in that age range. I saw something about that on Twitter.
He's 1 year younger than Tel. He's from 2006.
Oh, so 16. Well, okay. Didn't realize that.
And
okay.
Really good talent. Okay, mate. We must be fast because my phone will die in 5 minutes.
No worries. Thank you very much for the call. If you want to tell people where they can find you, your blog, your Twitter, where can people find more of you? Where can people find more from you?
Well, Twitter and my blog are the heart of this project. Maybe I will start working for a club in a few weeks, so I'm gonna be a little bit less active. But yeah, Twitter and website are the heart of Football Talent Scout, heart of my project.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for the talk, the discussion. Thank you very much for telling us all there is to know about Tel. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching, and bye.